On this episode, we're talking all things racing. So fucking strap up, lads. We got the mocks with us, and we're going to go through some expert tips, lads. So get amongst it.
Y'all motherfuckers when they get some free tips, best bets, go ahead and flex some. Pick winners all the time, hit it on a daily. This is all free, you don't even have to pay me.
Whoa. Why the fuck is so much shit playing? Oh, I actually had the YouTube video playing in the background. The lads. It's the boys from the mocks. It's Cash, Nico. And I'm obviously Dan from Dark Previews. Welcome, lads. It's great to finally fucking meet you. It's face to face. This is as real as it gets. How you guys feeling?
Good. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty keen. Especially after that intro. That hyped me up. That was cracker. It's better than our intro for sure. Ours is just a little bit of the races with our music over the back. You got a full-on rap video. It's great.
Yeah, well, I'm not really good at anything. I kind of dabble in a bit of that. So I think I was feeling myself one night, found this mad beat, played it, and then I was like, I'm a bit older than you blokes. So about 10, 15 years ago, I was trying to rap a little bit, and I was like, let me see what I got. Jumped on, had a bit of a laugh, and thought it sounded pretty good, so I kept it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you. I was like, is that him? That's what I was thinking. Nah, I like it, bro. Original. I like it. Very nice.
Well, if we do well, if your tips serve me right, I might even rap one for you. It's just for you, just for your show, right?
That's huge.
But today we're talking all things racing. I am a casual punter. Spent a lot of time following racing. Never could really crack it, so I try to avoid it when I can. But you blokes, all racing, dabble in a bit of what? AFL as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah?
A little bit AFL, a little bit NRL.
Sweet. Well, today we're just talking racing. A lot of this episode is going to be about you. You're going to give us some tips to help the casual punter, such as I, pick some winners. We've got the Everest coming up. Big spring is perfect, right? This is like Christmas for you blokes, I'm sure.
Yeah, basically, it's very exciting.
Yeah. 100%. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about you guys. So I guess you guys are the mocks. Tell us what we need to know about you blokes. So what service do you guys provide if you have one?
Well, we're just two 20-year-olds that have 2 years ago started off just with tips for a couple of mates. And then we decided we'd start recording a podcast. And since then, it's 2 years in now. And last year, I'd say probably really took off with in the spring carnival. And we got a lot more into it, learned a bit more. So, yeah, we have a weekly podcast that we post. Goes up every Thursday morning around 9 o'clock as best as we can to get it up at that time. And we go through whatever card is the biggest one over in Sydney, whether it be Rose Hill or Randwick. And then we also do a tip-off to the big races through the spring and autumn carnival. And then also our around the grounds tips and obviously the quaddie, because our podcast is called the Quaddie Potty. So that's the big thing is our quaddie. So that's what we provide. And
no pay barrier with us. There's a lot of paid tipping services out there, as I'm sure you know. You run your Discord, it's completely free, which is 100% what we're all about. We, Fresh 18, of course, we were sucked into the paid tipping services. We joined up. We were like, this is going to be great. We're going to earn so much money. And we found out that most of them are shams. We'll get into that a bit later, I'm sure, about the punter education. But essentially with both of us, like Nick said, it started with Fresh 18. In our friend group, we were the two really that turned 18 first. And we've both grown up around racing with both our respective dads, loving it, loving the punt. Never really taught us about it. Both have owned horses and we've been at the track watching them. That didn't know how to read form or anything. But as soon as we turned 18, got straight into it, loved it, and started sending tips to the boys. And then it basically started as us going, you know what? Let's get on Spotify. How funny would that be with our names on Spotify?
Yeah.
Got on there. We were doing it. The Mock Racing Club was the original. About 10 people were listening to it every week, and we decided, give it a rest. Then the pandemic came around. We were in lockdown. We thought, what else better to do? Let's hop back on the potty. Let's take it a bit serious. The name, the Quaddie Potty, came around. We branched out to the mock sports to do all sort of sports, and here we are. We're building every week, and we're loving the journey.
Yeah, it's awesome. And if you guys haven't heard the Quaddie Potty by the mocks, the link's in the description of this video. So I suggest you check that out, especially over the coming weeks. It's going to be fucking brilliant. You blokes also have quite a following on Dabble. What's the count there?
Yeah, so it just hit 11,000.
11,500 actually
Oh,
today.
sorry, mate. Yeah, just
Jesus.
so yeah, that's just taken off. To be honest, I'm not really. He's more of the admin side of all of it. Like he pretty much runs most of our social medias and our stuff like that. But yeah, he got us onto Dabble, and I had no idea what it was, to be honest. And then it kind of just started ticking over, and I just put my tips in, put a description in, and use Dabble for their for their copy bet stuff. And then over a couple of months now, we've been on it, and we've grown to 11,000 followers just by just tipping and writing what we're thinking.
Yeah,
So,
like it's an interesting bookie. Like I got on it almost immediately because I saw this post go up. Heath Shaw posted like, get on this new bookie. It's basically Discord and Sportsbet combined. I thought perfect to get us on there. And almost just over a year now, like we started about same as the podcast, barely any followers. And just as the podcast grew and grew and grew, we got in the chat, giving our tips up. And we're one of the more consistent ones on the platform, we like to think. And now we're 11,500. Like, that's still relatively small compared to some of them have over 50 grand, but it's definitely not the lowest. Like we've got a strong following and we've just been loving it.
Yeah. No, you guys are crushing it. I think I jumped into Dabble only a few months after it opened up, and I was like, fuck, this is a brilliant idea. I love the name. The interface is pretty cool.
100%.
And that's, I found you guys on there. I was like, fuck, these guys got a lot of followers. I sussed it out, gave you a follow, and look where we are now. I'm obviously loyal to the other bookies because I forget to upload my tips onto Dabble. So it really takes a conscious effort for me to use that because I'm already bouncing between 5, and I'm usually just odds hunting. And when you're odds hunting, I guess in the sports game, Dabble doesn't usually provide the best, but that copy bet feature, especially in racing, I think that's huge. But let's talk a little bit more about racing specifically. Let's go right off the top. You've probably spoken and been around the race game for long enough to know, where do casual punters just like myself, where do we make mistakes? Because it feels like every time I pick one, I'm pretty confident it's going in and some outrageous things happen.
I'll let you go first, mate.
We were there. We were definitely there. It's always probably the number one thing that I did. And I'll give you a specific is on Sportsbet. I'll just say this right now. The top tips.
Oh yeah,
that is bullshit. I'm going to put it right there now. Why would a bookie give you tips on a race where you would win? There is no bookie that wants you to win. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. They want to hook you in a little bit, but your top tips on any platform, it usually means it means nothing.
Especially Sportsbet best of the day. We came up very quickly. Like we were like, oh, best of the day, let's get on. It rarely wins. Rarely. So I reckon we've had this theory that they go through and they find the lay of the day. If you don't know what lay means, punters, that means you back it not to win. So basically it's one horse that you don't think is going to win, and it's usually a favourite because when you lay bet, they're the highest odds of obviously you take on the favourite not to win. It's going to pay more than if you've said $100 to one horse isn't going to win. So that was our theory. We reckon that the best bet system's a bit corrupt, but yeah, that's definitely a big thing. And like I mentioned earlier, the thing for me is paid tipping services. There are very few out there that actually provide you the value for money. And you can find so many that range from prices like we were only tame. We jumped into the ones that were $10, $20 a month, or even $20 just to start, and then you were fine for the rest of it. But you see ones that are out there that are upwards $100 a month. That's shit. Like you not only charging punters for tips, so they're already $100 in the red to start off with as soon as they subscribe to you, and then it ends up. You look at the track record, they go, "Oh, we're this many units up, so good, so good." But you get in there and it's very impersonal, a lot of the products. Like they don't really get around you. They don't educate you. They just go, here's our tip sheet. Here's our unit stakes. And if it gets up, cool. But if it doesn't get up, it's not their fault. They just go, oh, well, you paid for it, mate. And you end up severely in the red. I know it happened to me like real early on. So
I think the biggest thing that people got to realize is even with our service or any service, it's still gambling. Like, yeah, we've gone and done a lot of research into what it is, but we're still gambling at the end of the day. It's nothing's ever a given. And I think that's what we were looking at, all these big tipsters and thinking, oh, these guys have done the research. They know everything, but it's still a gamble. Like we can still have a terrible week. Like we could back no winners this week. We've done it before. We've done it
Yep.
a couple of weeks ago. We've backed no winners.
100%.
So
Nudie run.
I don't know. It's just that's the thing. You can lose so easily on betting. That's how getting into tipping and into horses, you really need to control yourself into what you put your bets on and what you do. Otherwise, the bookie will win. That's
100%
the only
right.
chance.
Like Nick said, there are weeks where we go nudie runs. Like, fortunately, we've had very few weeks where we've done that. I think in our history, only twice we've gone completely nude and we haven't got a single winner. But then, it's the way gambling is. You lose 20 units this week, you win 30 back the next week, you lose another 10, win 50. I think a couple examples. We had a nudie run. Very next week, I think we tipped like 6 out of 10 on the Randwick card. Then we had another week where we only tipped 2 winners. Then we tipped another one where it was 8 out of 10. Like, we crushed it. That's just the way gambling is.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. I know you spoke about being young, 18, 19. You got sucked into tipping services. And I'm 32 years old and I still do it. So, but I think for me at the moment, those tipping services, I'm not really looking for winners. I'm more so scoping out the market. I just want to see what everybody's doing. How do they run things? I know I run a free service. How does it compare? And a lot of the time I follow the bets and I track them and I analyze them. And, the free service, my services are coming up on top. Every paid one that I've gone through at the moment. So more just gathering some data, but I'll back you there. Don't fucking pay for tips.
Yeah, there's no point. There's no point.
Yeah. I got a question. Just I know we spoke a bit about the best bets and that sports bet provide. So they're an absolute sham. What about the write up that they put, like a little summary of that horse? Are those at least accurate or?
I think so. Like some of them, like I can read through it. Like even some of them, like if you listen to our podcast and go through, for example, how I talk about Nature Strip on the weekend for the Everest, it would probably, like looking at the sports, it'd be pretty similar in the way that we talk about the horse. So I wouldn't say it's wrong. I do say it can be a little bit misleading in some aspects.
Yeah.
But overall, I think they're not too bad. I don't know.
Yeah, coming from my perspective, because I would probably say that I'm the form analyst of the two of us. Nick's more like he's off the cuff.
He's all about vibe. I like that. I'm about vibe too.
He sees a horse and he goes, "You're winning today," and ends up getting up. Whereas I'm big on form analyst, reading the comments, writing my own comments. Like I've done a lot of freelance writing for different websites. We're maybe going to launch our own soon with different write-ups and all that sort of stuff. But the thing that comes down to it that people don't realize, just like the tips, it's all someone's opinion. So those write-ups, they're good. They're very detailed. They tell you exactly what that person thinks, but that's the key. That's what that person thinks. So, for instance, I could go out and I write my review and my preview of the race. I could say Nature Strip's tomorrow. It still could go out and lose. And then you could go to a completely different service and say Nature Strip, lay of the day, Eduardo's best bet of the day. It all comes down to opinion, and that's the beauty of this game when it comes to finding different form analysts, different tipsters that are consistent enough. It all comes down to personal people's opinions. On the day, it's the fastest horse that wins sort of stuff. It's just a lot of factors that go into it. But so keep that in mind, punters, when you are reading those previews. Just remember that at the end of the day, that's not the Bible. That is whoever wrote that article or wrote that review, that's coming from an opinion base.
Yeah. All right, sweet. This next topic I wanted to talk about is probably where we might spend a lot of time, because this is pretty much what all punters use. It's the form guide. And I think every casual punter knows how to read the form guide. We know what their recent races look like, how they are with the jockey, the distance, the track conditions, first up, second up, all that type of stuff. I think a casual punter understands that. But for me, I get not so much confused, but I always think to myself, which one of these are most important? Like, what matters here? And just give us your thoughts on the form guide. What's most important? What isn't?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Discussed it a few weeks ago on the potty, actually, about what our preferred form factors are. Every tipper has their own, and so I'll let Nick repeat what his one was.
Well, straight away off the bat, I think there's a couple. The jockey, in my opinion, plays a major part. There's that, and then the weight of the jockey is very important. For example, Coolangatta 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, over at Moonee Valley, had 50 kilos on its back, and it was probably, I think it was like 4 kilos less than any other horse there.
Yeah.
And it went out and won by 2 lengths. And I tipped it, and it was paying $10, and I knew it wasn't going to lose because it's racing off nothing off its back. I think that's one thing that's really important. How it runs on the track conditions is obviously very important. So if it's run on the wet tracks or the dry tracks or the soft track, whatever it is, and then obviously the distance, how far it's run before, if it's run at the distance before, if it's, I don't know. And in saying that, I also like to watch, if it's a big race and I want to get on it, I like to watch a previous race, see, because sometimes it can come 6th or 7th, but I can hit the line pretty well. Like run fast through the last 200 meters, but just not get there because it had a bad start to the race. And then that is just more form in itself. That's what I go off. What do you go off that?
I mean, Nick's right. Weight is critical. I think weight's a severely underestimated thing when it comes to the casual punter.
Clearly, I didn't even bring it up, to be honest.
Not many people look at it. So punters, when you look at the form guide, the W, that's how much weight the horse is carrying. That's always not what the jockey actually weighs. Like, the jockeys are very light. They don't weigh 60 kilos, but if it says 60 kilos, that means that the jockey's probably like 52 kilos, and to meet the weight that it needs to, they've put 8 kilos of weight in the saddle as well. So that's what that sort of means. Different races go different things. So there's weight for age. So how old you are determines what you carry. The younger the horse, the less weight they carry. Sometimes there's a handicap, and that's usually what most races are handicaps. And that's where a handicapper goes, yep, you're the best horse in this race. You're going to carry the top weight. Whereas this horse, you're not that good. You're going to carry like 50 or 52 kilos compared to the 60 kilo top horse. And then you look through a form guide, horses are traditionally ordered from 1 to 20 or whatever it is in weight size. So the top horse, number 1, that's the top weight, and the lowest number will be the lowest weight. So if you didn't know that, you know that now, and that's super critical because like Nick said, you can see horses that are carrying absolute feathers on the back, like 50 kilo, anything 52 or below, feathers compared to like 60 plus, which some horses do. Like for instance, Animo in the Cox
Plate last year carrying 48 or something.
Yeah, the only reason that it got as close as it did, like as a talented horse, we all know now, but back then it was somewhat a nobody compared to the rest of them, but he almost beat them because he was carrying a good 8 kilos less than the rest of them. It was only like 48, which is nothing.
Unheard of.
Nothing compared to the top weight of that race, which was like 60 or something. So like horses, because of course, they're not carrying as much weight, they're going to fly. Like because it's crucial to come down to the late stage. And other than that, I also like to look at previous runs. So I'm big on form, traditional form, who they've beat, who they've run behind, and that sort of stuff. So who they're lining up here. So for instance, if their previous run, they've just run second behind, let's just throw names out there just for the sake of it. Let's just say I want to tip I'm Thunderstruck. I'm Thunderstruck recently ran behind Animo. In this next race, Animo's not racing. So I'm Thunderstruck came second to that horse, and the horse that beat it's not there. If he repeats the run, he should be winning, sort of thing. Like it's a lot more simple than it is, but I'm huge. If they've run behind a horse that's above the class that they're in, or they've even beaten a horse that would be winning this race, that's big green ticks in my eyes. So always looking at who they've run behind and who they've beaten in their previous runs.
Awesome. It's funny you bring up classes. That was another thing I want to talk through. I don't know what the classes means or the grades. Like sometimes you see comments like dropping back in grade or class. And I guess, do you want to give us some insight around that?
Yeah, I'm still a bit in the dark. I don't actually know the difference of some of them. However, from watching racing for the last 2 years, I do know how the horses run. So I can kind of bunch them into fields. And that just comes with just watching it week after week for 2 years now. Like, I couldn't tell you, like, a benchmark 94, that's one of the classes. I couldn't tell you what horse would be suited to that perfectly. But, like, just by watching the horses enough, I know the horses, obviously the Group 1s are the top level.
Yep.
Which is what the Everest is, the big ones like the Melbourne Cup, obviously all those big races.
Well, technically Everest doesn't have a Group 1 status yet, but it has Group 1 level horses in it.
Yeah, well, that's the richest race.
It's basically a Group 1, but for some reason the powers that be refuse to because it's not a traditional race because it runs differently. But if you want the definition of how different grade work, you've got the Group 1, so that's the best kind. Group 1, 2, and 3, of course, 1 being the highest, 2 going down, 3 another one. Then there's listed, which is basically, you could call it Group 4. So if you see this is a listed race, that means it's, still pretty good on the day. And in off-season racing, so all the races now, they're all group. Like most of the races on the day will be G1, 2 or 3 next to the form guide. You'll see what that is. If you ever see LR, that's listed race, and that'll be like in the summer, winter. They're basically whatever the best horses are that are going around at that time. Then you go down from there. You get the benchmark, so BM, and then whatever the rating is next. Each horse basically gets a rating from the same handicapper. We'll go, this horse is rated 100, 99, whatever. And so if you're in a benchmark 90 race, you have to be at the 90 rating or below. You can't be over that. And then it just goes any number. That's how you work that out. And then if you go to a maiden, that means it says MDN next to the race.
Yeah.
That's all horses that have never won a race. So they're going for their first, they're breaking the maiden. They're trying to get their first ever win. And most of the time, that's like 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds that have never raced before. And sometimes it's just really shit horses that have had 20 starts and they can't get the win off the back. And the only other one that I can think of is class C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, anything like that. If it says C and then whatever number, that's for races for horses that have won that amount of races or less. So if it's a C3 race, class 3, they've won 3 or less races.
So it's very, very confusing.
Very technical,
when
very
it goes
confusing.
out like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, the way that I go about punting, especially like the midweeks, we like to steer away from that because
they're the donkeys.
Any donkey can win that. Like anyone can win, and you can't, like, you can do form for hours and still someone just trots out and wins by 10 lengths. You don't know. So that's why we only really tip lots in like the autumn carnival and the spring carnival. We usually steer away during winter because obviously that's when your NRL and AFL comes in and we tip through there. But yeah, so that's
basically what you're looking for is, those group races, which is what it is now. Like you said earlier, it's Christmas for us. Basically, every third race is a Group 1, and we just love it. And that's the biggest punting races to be getting on because it's the best horses going against the best.
Yeah. No, awesome. My next question, because this is something that I tend to do a lot. I follow the money. So I get the sports bet open, turn the flux on. If I see those fires, I'm following. The more fire, the more I'm staking. My question for you, is that a sound strategy? Because, look, it's gotten up for me before, but clearly I don't make money off horse racing. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. That's pretty... I say I used to do that, but I don't know. I can't really comment on that because I put most of my bets on earlier.
Yeah.
So I don't really see the flux. Like we tip on a Wednesday night, and then I follow my tips through unless something gets scratched. So I don't really see the flux. So I can't really comment on that too much.
Which is dangerous in its own mind, but that's the difference. If you want to stick by tips, or if you're like you said, you're a next up punter. That's when the flux is important. So the way the market works, it's just like stocks, basically. If you have any idea how stocks and crypto works, the more people that get on, in stocks, the price goes up because it's valued as more. But of course, the bookies see more chance to win, price goes down.
Right.
So,
so the value for you if you're getting on at that time is actually lower.
Yeah. That's why we get the early mail. You'll see that term in racing a lot. The early mail is you get on the early odds before they come in on race day because, 5 minutes before the race, that's when all the big bettors come out and go, $5,000 on Nature Strip, and you'll see them drop 10 cents because bookies say, shit, everyone's confident that this horse is going to get up. We don't want to take any chances. Drop those odds. And the same thing is with every drop of one horse's odds, the rest go up because they're counted as least likely to win sort of thing. Yeah.
All right. And I'm assuming late mail is obviously the opposite, right? You see that if you're watching the races?
Yeah. So late mail is late mail is sort of like early mail. They've looked at the market. What's the best bet of the market currently? Late mail. As soon as the race is about to go, who's the best one? Let's go that one, sort of thing. Same with tip of the yard. If you're watching the races and they go out tip of the yard, it's whoever the best looking horse is that's paraded and who's looking good right before the race jumps.
Right. Let's talk a bit about this parading. All right. Apparently, it's quite important when it comes to making selections. I've seen it quite a few times, and I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, I'm just waiting for the race to start, to be honest. What are we looking for there?
So that's probably the only time that I will bet straight before a race. If we're like this weekend, I won't put any bets on going into it. I'll take some cash with me as well for the bookies, but usually with all your bonus backs on your sports bet and your tabs, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you get your money back with bonus bets, which you don't get off the bookies. But with the parading, what I usually got, there's a couple of different things. Some of them are quite funny, to be honest.
Yeah.
But usually for the horses really calm, walking around, not too stressed out. Its ears are like really pricked, like real like straight. That's a good look.
He's got a bit of a stiffy.
Anyway. Pardon? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. If the ears are hard, they're ready. They're horny. They're ready.
Okay.
But there's that. There's another. I know one of my mates goes, the last horse to shit in the parade.
They say that about dogs as well.
That's how my girlfriend goes as well. Because if you shit, you're lighter. Technically, that's a thing that punters like to do.
It's true. But I don't know if you've ever done a shit and tried to run. It's a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. No, but I usually go off. There was one time I was me and my mates were all pissed, and we're at the Gold Coast races, and the horse was looking at us the whole time. So it actually winked at us. So we knew, and it lost. So
We're distracted.
But yeah, so I usually go off ears pricked and looking calm. When the jockey hops on, there doesn't need anyone walking along next to it, making sure it's all good. As long as it looks ready and concentrated, then that's what I usually go off.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. Moanga in the Wink Stakes this year, a lot of punters were on it. It was one of the best horses in the race, but it basically ran its race in the yard. It was super unsettled, kicked up all the time, had to have two blokes try and calm it down. It was unsettled, used all of its energy trying to, who knows if he was just ready to get out there or he didn't want to run at all, because, you got a lot of activists that say horses are being forced to run. If they don't want to run, they fucking tell you, and they make sure they don't run. They will kick and scream and make sure you don't make them run. So who knows if that was the case, but he came out and he ran like shit because he'd used all his energy. The only horses that I know of that aren't phased when they kick up in the yard is Animo. Animo is a little shit in the yard. He's always unsettled, but he goes out there and runs like a star. And Think It Over. Give an example. Last year for the Everest, we were there and we went and saw Think It Over in the yard.
Almost run into the fence, like on the track, running down for a warm-up, almost ran into the fence, one by 2 lengths.
Right in front of us. We went, oh, fuck. And we just bet on him and gone, we're screwed. Like, we'd never seen a horse that unsettled, jumping out of the place, like you said, almost ran headfirst into the fence, but then came out and smashed it. So those are the Animo and Think It Over, like the only 2 horses that I know that you don't have to be worried if they're kicking up a stink.
Right. Fuck, that's interesting. I do have a few other questions, but before we get there, just want to quickly plug this shit. So if you are listening, whether it's now or later in the future, follow the lads on Dabble. So I took this screenshot a couple nights ago. Since then, they've eclipsed 11,500 pretty much. So someone's following. So follow them on the Mock Sports
Market mover
on Dabble. And if you're watching this, hopefully you subscribe to this. Fuck me. Like, subscribe, do all that good shit.
Yeah, Daft Previews on top. Give him a subscribe.
Give it to us. We do have another question that's come straight out of the comment section.
No worries.
And I have a feeling that this question is probably coming out of the fact that Better has released their app today.
Yep.
They're offering, $101 odds?
Very big. They're planning on being the next Sportsbet. It's run by the guy that used to own Sportsbet and basically took it from where it was to where it is now. So they don't want to be a small bookie. They want to be on top.
Yeah. So the promos, they're banging, right? So this question comes from the Irish Aussie. He is a member of our Discord. Said it might be a little early, but who's your tip for Cox Plate and Melbourne Cup?
We've gone out on our podcast and said we haven't talked about the Cox Plate, but we've touched on the Melbourne Cup. But now that this offer's out, you're better off waiting for the field before you do anything. So we'll give a rundown on that on our podcast. For now, it's great house for me, but it hasn't even got a spot in the Melbourne Cup yet. So it's no good to do anything right now. I'd say
get too excited by the promo and just wait.
Yeah, the promo, though, the warning is it closes at the end of the Derby, which is the weekend before. So that's the last lead-in race. So basically, after this weekend, Caulfield Cup, which is the key lead-in race. So all these horses that are running here will want to be running in 2 weeks' time in the Melbourne Cup. If they're running like shit, they probably won't be doing it in the Melbourne Cup. So probably wait until this weekend to see the lay of the land, because these are all the Aussie horses. The internationals haven't come over yet, but see which Aussie horses are catching your fancy before you get on the 100 to 1.
This Caulfield Cup's a big one going into the Melbourne Cup, into who can run really strongly.
Yeah.
So
Just look at the last few winners. You had Incentivize. You had the year before that, Very Elegant. Like, class horses win, and they usually always go out and they do well in Melbourne Cup in a couple of weeks' time. But the Cox Plate's more of an interesting run because Cox Plate, $21 odds for a lot of those horses. It's probably going to be the race of the year. You've got Animo, I'm Thunderstruck, Zaki, Mwanga, Mr. Brightside. The list goes on. Huge race. And to get odds like that, you know, Melbourne Cup's very open. Anyone on the day can really get up. But the Cox Plate, getting Animo at $21 instead of $2, that's pretty big. I would say on now, Animo would be my top tip. If not, I'm Thunderstruck would probably be the ones you'd be wanting to get at $21 odds. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, those two are pretty good. I think you'd be stupid not to go for Animo at $20. I think that horse is, I don't know if you guys in the comments have really watched too much of the recent runs by Animo, but it's really proven itself to do it on the big stage numerous times. So it's probably going to jump $2.50 and under. $21.
100%.
That's crazy.
Like I said, Melbourne Cup favourites usually around $6, $8, but to get a $2 clear cut favourite at $21, like you're ahead already. It might not win, but to win $200 off a $2 bet when you only had to spend 10 instead of 100, that's smarter gambling. And these sort of promos is what helps the common punter get ahead, sort of thing. And that's why bookies put them on to try and get you to bet with them.
Yeah. All right, Hectic. Speaking of bookies, you said it a bit earlier. You're going to the track this weekend. You're going to bring cash with you.
Yeah.
What's the thought process around that? Is it best to see them, the bookies, or use your... Yeah.
This is a bit personally for me. I don't know. When I first went to the races, I always used to be bet with money because you're there at the races. But yeah, like I said, with your online bookmakers, you get your bonus back at the moment. And you don't get that from the regular bookies. However,
better odds.
Sometimes there are better odds that you can get. And I also really, really like looking a bookie in the eye when he's handing me my money, knowing that I've robbed him. That's what I get joy off it. So
he does. I've seen it happen.
You give him the look in the eye, and if it's enough money, you ask for a rubber band. That's what you say. And they go back and they get you a rubber band.
Well, that's what we want. All right. I'm going to the Everest this week, and I'm bringing some stacks with me.
Yeah,
I'll bring it back.
So yeah, that's the thing with bookmakers at the track. No bonus back, but usually they offer better odds. That's how they convince you to.
Otherwise, no one would bet with them.
Exactly right.
Otherwise, it'd just be the old school
people. So for those who have never been to the races, you go there and they have a massive bookie ring. There's about 20 or so bookies all set up right next to each other. And at the height, like 20 minutes before the Everest, you go in there, it'll be madness. They'll all be going, yeah, we've got Nature Trip at $2.20, $2.20. You come bet with us. And you got to go around and they have all these screens of the odds that they're offering. And you just go in there with the attitude, I want to find the best odds for Nature Strip, or I want to find the best odds for Eduardo. You find that, and then that's what you get. You get your physical ticket, and then if you win, don't lose it because you don't get your money. It's not like online where it goes straight in your bank account. It's all physical. So you put your cash in, give your ticket back, then you get cash back.
Right. I'll give it a crack.
It's good fun. Like Nick said, taking cash out of their hands is very fun.
Yes, I'm a really nice bloke. I don't think I could do that. I might have to tip him. He's a tip, mate.
No.
My last question for you is, though, it's more so about staking, right? So the way that I currently do it, keeping in mind I don't bet that often, if I'm backing a short favourite, I usually just back him for the win. And if I'm backing anything, let's say if I'm getting place odds at about $2, I always seem to go each way.
Good man.
What are your thoughts on that?
The way to do it.
That's what we're doing. No matter what, if our horse is paying $2 for a place, we go each way.
Each way all day. Because then if it comes second or third, sucks that they haven't won, but you get your money back. If it's paying over $2, that's guaranteed full stake back. If it's paying even $3 or $4, you make a profit just for the place. So
in the long run, we've found going each way is more of a profit making.
It's very sustainable.
Long term.
Yeah.
As opposed to just going for the nose, because we find a lot of the time where our tips are pretty okay, they're usually running in the top half of the race, and most of the time it is in the top 3. So we do find we make our money back, but there is a lot of the time. Like we can go, I think even last week over at Caulfield with my mates, I was tipping horses.
100%.
And I tipped 9 second places.
You go each way on them, you still profit on the day.
Yeah, so that's the way we like to go about it. And overall, I think that actually changed our punting, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like it put us in a really good spot to make some more profit.
Like I've got a dad who's religious on the nose because he argues, which a lot of people argue, if you put, instead of going 25 each way, if you put 50 on the nose, you win more on the day.
Yeah.
Like, clearly if you've got 50 just on that $8 instead of going 25 on the 8 and 25 on the $3 place, you win more. But like Nick said, it's just more sustainable. Like you still get your money back, you get the profit back if they place.
You get to pull more bets on in the long run.
Exactly right.
To win.
Like,
to not. So.
If you decide to get on the value and you go 25 each way, that's paying $2 to place.
Yeah.
Run second, that sucks. You almost got a huge bet off, but you got your money back and that's paid for the next bet. Instead of going 50 on the nose, you got no money for the next bet then.
Okay. All right, it's good. At least I'm doing something right. What was the last question that I had for you? Fuck me. Oh, I wanted to talk exotics for a minute. I know, obviously, when you look at sports betting, what gets the lads horny and aroused is the bigger odds you hit, right? Which is unlikely. It's unrealistic. It's a punter's dream, and it's the reason why most punters are broke. With racing, very similar. You see either big upsets, massive roughies, or trifectas, first fours. That's what gets a lot of people horny and aroused. What are your thoughts on that?
So look, I can say I stay away from it, but to be honest, with our Dabble account, there's many nights at the pub after a few too many beers. I'm on the Dabble account tipping dog trifectas in the early hours of the morning. So I know how it feels. I definitely know how it feels. But for horses, for the big races, sometimes we'll do it. Yeah. If we have two different tips that we both say will be in the top two, we think we'll tip the Quinella. And that usually goes all right. But most of the time we don't really
like
not
last week, and we didn't back them, but like our tips ran the 1-2 last week. My brother was on last week and we did that, and it's very often that we'll have at least one race like that we go the 1-2. So if punters were out there and they put the Quinellas on, they would have hit them. We personally don't all the time. If we're at the track, usually we go, I like this one, and Nick would go, fuck you, I like mine. Okay, let's go the Quinella. And then we've gotten it up a couple times at the track, but exotics are a weird one. Like you see the higher the horse is paying, of course, the exotic's going to pay out more. That's because basically, I only learned this recently also, all the money in the betting pool for that singular race, that trifecta. So let's just say you've got 10 people that have put a trifecta on for that race. That means that the betting pool is 100. Yeah. So basically, race goes, that pool is then divided by how many people got that trifecta, and then you get paid out that percentage. So for instance, if you have 100% of the dividend, which is divided by how many people, you get if you were the only one, you get $100. And if you only had 60%, you get $60. So that's why it pays out. Like people go, oh, that'll fucking pay good. Like I had a $20 horse win. Just because it was rougher, it'll pay good. Like not always guaranteed, because maybe a lot of people had it in their trifecta sort of thing. But that's why you usually see bigger payouts with the bigger odds horses, because less people put them in their trifectas and first fours, Quinellas, all the exotics. That's how exotics work. It's basically one big dividend. Whoever got it, divide it, and then pay it out like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because look, sometimes I get on and I just, $2.50 first fours or whatever. I just fuck around for a couple of hours trying to see if I can land one.
We've all been there.
You finally do, and you get like $16.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a real big fan of the same race multis. They're a lot safer, I think, in my opinion. If you want to go, it's a little bit exotic, but you don't get the dividends, so at least you know how much you're going to get paid out.
You see the payout, the potential payouts there already. They set you pure odds. You're not going off any dividends or percentages that you put on, or it doesn't matter who else gets it. You know what payout you're getting.
However, if you're just going to back a trifecta as 3 players in the top 3, you might as well just go for the trifecta, in my opinion. But if you want to, this person top 2, this person top 4, blah, blah, blah. Same race multis are pretty good for that, especially with the dogs. But we don't really know too much about those, to be honest.
Oh no, they're awful. Honestly, the worst. I love them.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I do on the horses though, when I do punt, is if I have, let's say, there's two that I like, I just chuck them both in for top 4 and see if I can get $2 to $3.
Yeah.
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 It's a proven strategy.
That's a good strategy if you want to. Yeah. Like, honestly, we've done that before for a little bit.
Yeah, I know Nick, he had nights where he's like, boys, it's free money. Look at this. I'm putting the 2 favourite top dogs in top 4s and getting up.
Every time. If you put the top 2, they just come top 4 every time until we lost.
And then we found out that it was just one good night and it's not sustainable, because then I went the very next night and I ended up losing my paycheck that week going, no, Nick was right. This is going to work. And it didn't end up getting the job done.
Yeah,
so
I think that's another
thing. Like that.
That's another thing. The dogs are completely different to the horses.
Completely.
Cannot have the same form at all. I couldn't tell you the second thing about greyhound racing. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Because unlike horse racing, the $1.20 favourite could go out there and he could fall over, or he could get bumped and roll across the track. Like, that's why I'm not a massive supporter of dog racing for that purpose, but we're not here to talk about that. But that's why it's very hard to gamble on them, because unlike the horses, it's a lot more common that a dog gets knocked over than a horse, because look at the size of the animal. So everything can go to shit very quickly in a dog race.
No, you're spot on. Well, I don't have any other questions for you, lads, but is there any more that you'd like to share? Any, I guess, tips for the punt or public announcements you'd like to make?
Not really.
I guess we could plug the Punt Club that we got coming up. So basically, our on our socials at the Mock Sports on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Also, if you hear from the Daft Previews Discord, we'll definitely put it in there as well. Big Punters Club. It's very common in punting that a bunch of mates get together, all chip in and attack the races head on for the weekend. And what we're going to do is over the entire Melbourne Cup weekend, it's run through puntclub.com. So if you don't know who they are, check them out and just get a lay of the land before you join up with us. It runs through Ladbrokes as well, so you need a Ladbrokes account to join in. But basically, we're just going to get as many lads as possible, one big community, and that's all our betting for Melbourne Cup week, which is the highest week of gambling in the country. They say billions of dollars go in and out of bookmakers' pockets that week. So we've got Golden Eagle, Derby Day, Melbourne Cup, Oaks Day, Five Diamonds Day, Champion Stakes Day. So it's basically 1 week of a punting extravaganza. And we've just decided we want the whole community to get on board, because that's what we do at the Mock Sports. We try to build a massive community to get around each other. Yeah. And if we don't win, that sucks, but at least we'll have a couple laughs along the way. We'll all put out surveys and we'll all vote for who we want to put the big bets on.
Yeah.
And you just know that, watching the Melbourne Cup, you're like, wow, I've got, all my mates in this punt club. We could get up together here, and it's pretty special if we land a Melbourne Cup winner with big money on. So that's basically what we want to aim to do.
All right, awesome. Look, I'm in. I think I've learned enough in the last 40 minutes to pick winners on my own, so I'll join. I'll sign up for you.
Lovely stuff. So the boys in the Duff Previews Discord can definitely get hyped for that. So hopefully we can, as a community, win a bit of money. But like I said, if it doesn't go our way, at least we have some laughs along the way. Most
def. Well, if you guys want to check out the mocks, the boys at the Mock Sports, check them out on Dabble. The link to I think their Spotify's in the description, but you can find them anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast. You can check them out. If you want to see the tips that they provide, whether it's on sport or race, you can also join the Daft Previews Discord. It is free to join. It's the most engaging punting service in the nation. I refuse to ever ask you for money to pay for tips, because if I was really that good, I'd fucking tip myself and fuck right off my profit. So everything we do is free. We'll keep it engaging. We'll keep you hard and aroused, whatever you like. We'll keep it wet if you want to. But Nico, Kashi, it's been absolutely brilliant having you guys on. I'm sure this won't be the last time.
Looking forward to it. We've had a lot of fun.
That's it.
Absolutely. For everyone who's tuned in, appreciate y'all. If you're looking at this 2 years from now, the tips are probably still relevant, so get amongst it. Pleasure, boys.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Y'all motherfuckers, when they get some free tips, best bets, go ahead and flex some. Pick winners all the time, hit it on a daily. This is all free, you don't even have to pay me.